Good morning, Joe Delagrave. I'm one of the captains for USAWR. My other captain that I get to co-captain with is probably working out because that's all he does. He's in a CrossFit gym, grinding away, I'm assuming. But today's super special. I'm really excited to have two referees because we have two referees in rugby. Even though like most of us players, there's usually like 4 + 4, like 10 referees in the court usually. But no, I'm excited to have Kevin Bowie. He is a veteran IWRF referee and on the technical commission for the IWRF, so he's a big deal. And then we got Josh Kearns. He's a USQRA referee and been refereeing the IWRF as well. And so we're going to get perspective from him, both in the league as well as IWRF. So I'm just going to bring him on, and we can all start to yell at him together on the comments. So we'll see what we get out here. But Kevin, Josh, thank you guys so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's dive right into it. Yesterday was a big day. Obviously, it's kind of deja vu. It was really weird. Yesterday was the day, like, my wife's phone went off, and she's like, "Oh, I got a flight in my thing." And I was like, "That was your flight for Tokyo." And so it was just kind of weird. We didn't really tell the kids because the kids probably would have, like, been all emotional about it. But it was the new kickoff for 365 days until Tokyo 2020 and in Tokyo 2021. But I just want to get your perspective a little bit from refs and leading up until the games and what that means, Kevin, for you with being on the technical commission and the excitement there and your guys' community.
Yeah, for sure. It's I had the same alert go off on my phone 2 days ago because I was supposed to fly there early as the technical delegate, and then get the ball rolling, right? And that's been the hardest thing, is just like, oh, it's another year off, and you put your life off. I put some of my life off, not nearly to the same degree as you, but definitely it's a big part of what I've done for the last 4 years. So that's a big part of it. And then also the officials that have been selected by the technical commission, all of them are like, what am I doing? Moving on, do I stay? Am I selected? Am I not selected? And having to go through that whole process again. I know Josh can probably speak to it from his side of it because he's one of the alternates for the Paralympics. So I'll throw it over to him.
Yeah. I'll say this, Joe, just like you're training and practicing and doing everything that you can to get to that level, we're doing the same things. So a big goal of mine for the last 4 years since I got certified internationally back in 2015 was to make it to the Paralympics. And getting the selection as an alternate this year and being able to go over, I was supposed to go over and be part of the preempt one in Tokyo in March. And so it wasn't until 4 days before I was supposed to fly out that's when they shut everything down. And I was gearing up. I was getting really excited and just be a part of it and be there to help the technical delegate go through everything. And so, kind of being in that holding pattern, you go through and you figure out how do I stay on my game? What should I do? And so I know Kevin's been doing some running. We've been talking back and forth on Instagram. Going out, trying to stay in shape, trying to stay mentally active and be a part of it. And just, like you said, it's a year away, and a lot can change in that next year. And so I'm trying to keep myself active as one of the alternates to get in there for sure. I want to make sure I'm there and have an opportunity to be there.
Absolutely. Gotta say hi to our Brazilian fan. What's up, me? How's it going? Kelly Melton, is it a tryout process? What's that process look like to make the Paralympic Games as a referee? Josh, I know that you talked about it before, and I knew that was a goal of yours when we see each other in the league, and ramping up and getting to be an alternate. And then I remember texting back and forth. I'm like, is Tokyo canceled? What's going on? I'm like, I don't know. And it's such a bummer. But what's that tryout process normally? And then Kevin, you mentioned a little bit. Is there a decision made that you guys are sticking with the same referees, and then it just basically flows into 2021?
Yeah, so we decided that was the most fair way to go about it because there will be just like you guys, a lack of feel of being on the court and just that touch that you get of interacting with the athletes and making decisions and the process of that speed. And so to take that away and have everybody start again is really challenging, especially because this is the first year that we've actually implemented a 3-year rubric system where referees are evaluated every tournament that they attend, and their scoring is as a metric that moves through time with them. And so the average best scores with some zone representation is part of the factor. And so there's a committee of four of us that basically sit there, and Darren's kind of like sitting outside of that process and watching us sort of circle around which referees are climbing the charts and which referees are the most consistent, and then helping us make a decision, because he's the lead on the technical commission side, and he's the one who ultimately selects the technical officials that attend. And then we do the same process with like table officials and that kind of thing domestically.
Like Kelly says, that's insightful. That's really neat. That's fascinating. So I'm hoping that you can just put up a graph of like the Sports Center top 10 at referees. Let's just have it right here.
Kevin will be modest, but I'll say Kevin's definitely up there. Kevin's one of the best in the world and has been for a while. So
that's the nice part about being the technical delegate. You're removed from the process of waiting and waiting and waiting, like Josh is doing, to see if you're on it or not on it.
Yeah.
Like, I know I have a seat. It's just on the sideline. But I know what it's like to be Josh, because I was the alternate for both London and Rio, because the previous system had a limit of only like 3 per zone. And we know that the America zone is very, very steep in terms of the curve of quality of officials. And so in London, basically one Canadian and 2 Americans went. And then in Rio, it switched the process. So 2 Canadians and 1 American went. And Jean Chouanier, who'd been a longtime referee in Canada, he was retiring. So it was his, you get a little bit of a bump to do that. And he should, because he put in the yeoman's work in the IWF. So over to him for sure. That's amazing. So like Tokyo, I applied to be the technical delegate, so I'm sort of out of the loop one more time. But I know what it's like to be in Josh's shoes.
Yeah. How is that? That's interesting. How is that like making that decision to be the technical delegate or apply for it, and then being an alternate in 2012 and 2016, and kind of letting him have his ride off into the sunset and his chance to be able to do that in Rio? But like, was that a decision you're like, I'd rather do this than that? Like, no, I'm going to get it? Or how's it?
You know what? It was very much like, I'm a sport administrator for a career side of things, and being a technical delegate at the games is like, you're in charge of a lot of people. Like, there's only Stan and Richard were ahead of my position in Rio, and now only Stan is ahead of that position currently. So like the level of learning and like interfacing with governments, foreign governments, local organizing committees, like all that stuff was just, I needed to check that off on my list of like professional changes. And that helped me transition just recently from BC Wheelchair Sports to the manager of the provincial sport governing body. So it was really helpful in that. And now after this quad, I'll transition back to just referee. So hopefully I'll be in Paris blowing whistle.
Awesome. Oh, see, people are already talking smack, Josh. Steve Service loves to come on the show and talk smack. I remember that
it's
post.
The balance, Steve.
I remember that post. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Double fisting if you carry 2 in one hand.
It's just one hand, though. It's not considered double fisting. No, I mean, just like everybody else, we like to have our fun too as referees. And
absolutely,
we train hard, but we also understand like there's seasons of play. And right now,
I feel like there's like so you have the teams, and then the intermingling there, and then you have the referees, and then you have the classifiers. And we're always like, as players, we're always like, who has more fun? The referees or the classifiers? You guys are like both get a pretty good battle. Like, you seem like it's cool to see, like everyone's traveling and getting to travel around the world, and which is a lot of fun. And then when you get there, you get to go and do like, you guys able to get to sightsee a little bit and be able to kind of just be in a community with you guys and have a little fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually last time Kevin and I saw each other, we were over in Denmark. And one morning we got up and we went for a run, just kind of running through the countryside, trying to dodge a couple of vehicles and everything like that too. But, get to sightsee a little bit, have some fun. I'll say this on the referee side, we're up there till the last day of the tournament. Classifiers are usually done by then, so they get to have a little bit more fun.
No, that's true. Yeah, they get like the first couple days and all of a sudden it's go time.
Yeah, that's a fair point, Josh.
Yeah. Francis, I know you have all the fun in the world, and we love our volunteers 100%.
Definitely, she does.
Yeah. Well, hey, so I want to talk a little bit about you guys' start in the sport. Like, it's always fun to figure out like where an AB comes into our sport and finds this it's a weird sport. Like it's, like whenever I'm doing talks, I'm always talking about like how, like, here's how you describe it. People don't know it. It's a bunch of crippled people on a court smashing into each other, making each other more crippled. It's kind of like with the ball and you score. And obviously there's a lot more of the game, but like, that's the gist of it. It's kind of a weird game, but then you fall in love with it and the strategy and everything involved with it. But Josh, maybe you go first. How'd you get started in the sport of becoming a referee?
Yeah, so actually, my sister is a doctor of physical therapy, and so in one of her rotations, I grew up in Pittsburgh, and one of her rotations took her to be a part of the Pittsburgh Steel Wheelers. So she kind of helped them out for a little bit, and then ended up coaching them. Never got involved while I was living in Pittsburgh. I moved down to Florida, and she called me up one day, and she's like, "Hey, little brother, I'm going to be up in Jacksonville for a wheelchair rugby tournament. You're only a couple hours away. I haven't seen you in a couple months. Do you want to come up?" So I said, "Sure, I'll come up. Like, I'd love to see the teams play. I've never really been a part of it. Would be nice to see everything." So went up, saw her, spent the weekend with her and the Pittsburgh team. It was a great weekend. Really felt that familial aspect of the sport, and especially spending time with that Pittsburgh team. They will self-proclaim themselves as a drinking team with a rugby problem. We had a lot of fun that weekend. And so after on Sunday, right before I was getting ready to leave, she's like, "Hey, before you leave, no pressure. I just want to introduce you to the Tampa team since that's where you live in. Let me just introduce you to Rudy and Justin Stark. And we'll, if you want to help them out, great. No pressure. I just want to introduce you so you have a little bit of connection in the Tampa market." And so went over, talked to Rudy a little bit, talked to Justin, had a good conversation with them. And I asked them when their next practice was. They said, "We'll be on court on Tuesday." I said, "All right, I'll see you there." And I don't think that we meshed with where both of our expectations were, because I was like, "Well, I'll help out a little bit." They thought I wanted to be a referee right away. So they handed me a whistle that first day and said, "All right, these are your rules." And I was like, "Okay." So I was counting 10 for the dribbles and 12 in the backcourts and everything. Yeah. Rudy had a stopwatch on the sideline. He's like, "Josh, you're late. Josh, you're late." I'm like, "Rudy, I'm sorry. Like, I'll get to it." He handed me the stopwatch at the end of practice and said, "Hey, take this. Anytime you got some free time, practice your counts." I was like, "Okay, we'll do." "Yep, coach, sir, I definitely will." I'm sure that they probably did not expect to see me back at all, but I showed up every day after that. We were practicing 2 days a week, went through the rest of that season. And then kind of stuck with it with the Tampa team while I was here. Yeah, exactly. Steve Service was out there. And
hey, Oliver, quit trying to get some calls already, man. Come on. I did. Joe, of course, too. Yeah, come on. I know what you're trying to do, Oliver. Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was kind of my start in rugby. It's been a long, fun time. It's been just over a decade I've been a part of the sport, and I've loved every minute of it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Kevin, what about you, man?
Oh man, mine's a convoluted story, but I guess like in Canada generally, I think people come to the sport via like one conduit is like Gilles Briere. So that's sort of the main way, but a lot of that's because Gilles has like a friendship with Don Royer, who was part of the Paralympic, like the sort of burgeoning Paralympic movement. Because they both did basketball. One was a coach and Gilles was obviously an official. And so like I'd refereed basketball at the college level, and Gilles was my supervisor at a Canada Games for like youth basketball, and did a couple of university supervision tournaments. And so the Nationals was coming to Winnipeg, which is where the sport's from. And it was the anniversary of it. So he was like, "Oh, check it out. Come be a table official." And it was like still the time of the stall, and I was doing Div 2 because I wasn't a good table official yet, and that kind of thing. And so I was like napping on the sidelines. I was like, "What is this sport?" And then I got I finished my kinesiology degree, and I got a job with BC Wheelchair Sports randomly because I was in the wheelchair basketball community as part of that internship. And Gail was like, "Hey, do you want to try wheelchair rugby? If you can like blow a whistle in basketball, you can do this." I was like, "Okay, I'll give it another shot." And so I just like fell in love with the appreciation of the tactics of it. And yeah, it was cool to have like obviously Duncan lives in BC now. So I actually struck up a good friendship with Duncan. That just sort of gave that Winnipeg connection. And we talk Jets hockey all the time and, those type of things. And it just got me like into the community of it. And then, when you have a lot of like referee skills from basketball, you can transition them really quickly. So like, the curve was pretty fast. And then went to Argentina in 2008 and got my license from Bob Lopez.
Bobby Lopez. Yeah. Awesome. That's amazing. So you've been at it. Yeah. I mean, you started pretty much when I started as far as internationally goes. That's cool.
Yeah, I think I blew my first rugby whistle in 2006, had my license in 2008, and then been doing it ever since.
Awesome. I want to kind of go into a little bit. You talked a little bit about Division II and falling asleep. And so, like, from your guys' perspective, like the sport is beautiful in three different areas. It's kind of what I break them up to. There's a therapeutic, there's a rehabilitative aspect, and then there's a recreational aspect. There's Division III, Division II, like in the U.S. it's like an unwritten Division III like league or whatever, and then Division II, and then Division I and international. So it kind of like rides this wave of rehabilitative, recreational, and then like professional, elite level rugby. Like how is that for referees in your development? How is that if you've reffed like big time games internationally or big time games at the Division I level, and then you go to the Division II level? I want honest answers here. Honesty, please. I know that you have appreciation for the game at all levels, but what are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I'll go first, Kevin. I'll give you a little bit of time to think. And so I'll say this, I've given the opportunity to be ref 2 at the gold level Division 1. I've ref the gold medal Division 2 game US, did the 3-4 game over for the European A just last year. Like I've had some big games, and those are great games, and there's a lot, it's intense, you're focused, you're going through everything. And I'll even skip Division II. I'll go straight to the Division III. I've ref plenty, living in Maine for 7 years too. I've ref plenty of Division III. And here's the thing, that they may be a little slower, and it's a mental aspect at that point in time. And so what I train a lot of our newer and younger officials to do those are the games to really elevate your base level. I always say, I can hand you a whistle at any point in time, send you out on a court, and you're going to be able to referee at some level of play. You're going to catch things, you're going to miss other things, you're going to be on your game to some level. Yeah. The idea in slower games that you have an opportunity to slow things down, really concentrate is, hey, you're working on bringing that base level up so that no matter where you're at, your base level continues to increase and increase and increase. So overall, you're getting better every time. Doesn't mean that, it's the most fun, but we have fun, we stay active. It's a great way to maintain that. Even internationally, I've had some slower gameplay depending on the countries that are playing. But even then, like I look at every game, every single time is how can I improve my skill? Like how can I make sure that I'm giving everything to these guys and gals that are playing every single time? And how do I give them my best, and bring my level up so that, hopefully when I do get that call one day to go to the Paralympics, I'm not floundering. I've got, my base game is high. I'm right there with everything.
Awesome. What you got, Kevin?
So I got two things. Wheelchair rugby is one of the hardest games to learn as an official if you didn't have officiating experience before, for one reason. Even at the Div 3 level, you don't start from a position where you have some level of maturity or authority in the game, because you start with fully fledged adults. So they're ready to yell at you. They think they know the rules. They've read them. Whereas like when you start in like soccer or hockey or basketball or whatever, you got little kids and you're like a 16 or 17-year-old kid learning the rules, and like you're reading the book more than the kids reading the book, and you kind of know a little bit more than the coach, or you just have one person yelling at you, the coach. But in like Div 3, everybody's got an opinion. They're the whole peanut gallery. and I think that's kind of cool. But also to Josh's point, that you work on your stuff, like little things for me, like I'll help coach up the other official, or I can poach a little bit more in their area to help them learn how to make the call. But then every time I get together with them at the quarter break or whatever, I'm helping that official say like, you see what I saw in your area, please make that call next time, and like you'll get better and more flow. And then also like the chat with the players, like your coach, you're part of the coaching team. I see at Div 3 and Div 2, where you can really like influence them by talking and saying like, hey, do this, or hey, this is why you get called for that. Or sometimes I even throw in a little like, hey, you need to bounce the ball. And then like making the call, they go, oh, the referee's helping me. And you build some rapport. And then like you start making that call if they're not going to listen to you, kind of thing. Whereas like at your level, I got to make the call most of the time. But even still, I like to be like a rapport builder and like sort of a helping hand out there. And that stays like a common trend throughout rugby.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that the pace increases, like, and that's sort of like the phases. Like even Div 1 is like really, really high caliber and it's really quick, but there's always one guy who's just a little different on the court that allows you to just pay attention to 3 more than the other. But like when I'm refereeing, like when I do you in Japan, you guys are the 2 fastest teams in the world. And like, holy crap, you gotta watch every guy on the court. There's not one guy, like, you know, like Jeff's doing something dirty behind and you're doing something over here and like Chuck's doing.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And then like every single team, it's funny in sports, we call it gamesmanship. No, it's cheating. That's
Totally.
what it is. Everyone's trying to do it. And it's kind of an interesting deal where that's part of the game. And I kind of want to get into a few of those like questions about what goes through you guys' mind, but I want to play a quick game real quick. And we're going to get to know you through some fast-hitting questions. So just like whatever comes to your mind, these are silly. They're meant to be silly, and then we'll keep going. And then audience, people that are listening in right now, if you have questions, we'll take time for questions as well towards the end. So if you got some good questions, throw them up there. Don't be shy. Okay, number 1. I don't care who goes first. Just kind of throw it out there. And this one is an answer and then a quick why or why not. Okay, is cereal soup? Why or why not?
No.
Sorry,
Because it's a cereal soup, and I say no because it's a breakfast cereal. You won't eat soup for breakfast. I don't see that.
No, cereal's ridiculous anyway. So it's not.
I really wish I had I really wish I had a Yoki like on the line right now to just like debate the opposite end of whatever you guys say.
I always give you the box of cereal. Always.
All right. Okay. What is the sexiest name out there, and what is the least sexiest name out there? Just a name.
Sexiest name for me is Melissa because that's my wife's name.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what we're just trying to gain points with the wife on this show.
No, I
Yeah,
have to say
seriously,
Leanne too.
Yeah, mine. Yeah, absolutely. I'm no
least
doubt.
sexiest. I don't know. Kevin's coming to mind, but I don't know why. I can't.
It's the beard.
Yeah, looks good though, man.
Absolutely. The least of these are always like the normal names, like it's Bill or Jim. Like it's just kind of like whatever. Sorry,
Yeah.
Jim Robbins. Okay, what secret conspiracy would you like to start? Name a secret conspiracy that you'd like to start.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Like, it has to be a start, or could it be like one that's already going on?
Yeah, one that's already out there that you want to get on that bandwagon.
Yeah, listen, I'm all about Bigfoot, and I think Kevin being up in British Columbia, he's got to believe that they actually exist. I mean, it's a fact at this point.
That's good. Yeah.
I don't know. I would say like, I don't know. That's a tough one. I'll go with Josh.
I'll go with one. The Earth is flat and round. There's a good conspiracy to start. There's a couple Netflix documentaries coming out. What is the weirdest smell you have ever smelled? Is it smelled or smelt? Smelt? I think people in Wisconsin probably would say smelt.
Well, this one is 100% easy. I have walked down a Brazilian back alley. It is horrific.
That just sounds disgusting.
Like, yeah, like a bunch of fish guts in a dumpster when you're walking down like 40 degrees in Rio. Yikes.
Yeah.
That does not sound good. I mean, mine would just be like some rotting. Like I've smelled some like rotting meat and like curdled cheese and everything all in like one trash bag, and you're like, why is this still in here? That does smell good.
Yeah. Some of the kids' diapers over the years has been pretty bad, but
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Those are never fun. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Absolutely not.
Oh, coming hard. Absolutely.
Yeah, and don't put ketchup on it either. It's a mustard only situation.
Oh, settle down, Kevin. I'll say I don't care because they're just delicious. At the end of
That's
the
a
day,
hot take.
I'll say they are a sandwich because it's meat and bread. You know.
Hold on. Hot take. It's not a sandwich, and you don't put ketchup on it, and you only put mustard on it?
Mustard and like onions or like sauerkraut or something like that. But like,
What about relish?
you can put. I'm gonna say you can put some like spicy banana peppers on there every once in a while.
Okay.
If you want to kick it up a notch.
Yeah.
It is a sandwich. You can put whatever you want on there. Chili cheese dog, that's my favorite.
Chili cheese dog. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Hot take with the no ketchup, because my kids, that's like, I think we have stock in ketchup because they love it so much. It's so gross. It's turned me off. I don't eat ketchup anymore. They're just disgusting. Yeah. That's actually really true. The worst smell you smell is probably a quad at some point in time. That's absolutely true. We won't go into that, Hannaford. There's some quads there. Okay. You might want to check something during halftime. But what is the last one? What is the best Wi-Fi name you've ever seen? There's some good ones out there. Like when you're searching for Wi-Fi, especially in in residential areas.
Not the FBI.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, I've seen you can't have my Pornhub address.
My buddy actually has one. He's one of my best friends from high school, and he has like I think his name is just Pornhub.com, and his wife is an elementary teacher, and they have
some guy in my neighborhood.
And it's like, honey, you got to stop doing that because our neighbors are going to think we're some pedophile or something. It's like, come on. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for that. That was a lot of fun. We need to get back on course here.
Yeah.
Question is, let's go into the rules. Let's go rules. Obviously, that's your job is to enforce them. But do you guys care about the rule changes in the sport? Like, do you guys ever like sit around the water cooler and be like, I really wish we never had to call this because like it sucks to call or it's hard to call. So like, do you care about the rule changes? And if so, what would they be from your point of view?
You go, Josh.
Yeah, I'll say this. We definitely talk about that. And we talk about, especially in the USQRA, I'm not so much active on the IWRF with what goes on with the rule changes there, but in the US side, as being the former vice chair of the USQRA, we talked about everything, every single time an AGM was coming up. We went through, we looked at the ones that definitely affected us. And then as a group, a small group, big group, we talk about the other ones that were involved as well. Some of the bigger ones recently we're trying to figure out postseason. I mean, I feel like the USQRA has been trying to tackle the right way to handle postseason for the last 5 years. So looking at that and seeing, the different aspects and, being a part of it, taking away the contact before the whistle. I'll be honest, I love it. It's a great aspect of the game. I'd love to see it internationally, but I think internationally we're still looking at.
Hot take. Here we go.
I love it, because that's one less thing.
That's one less thing. Mason, you're going to get kicked off the show if you ask about reaching.
Well, I don't know what a reaching foul is. I know what illegal use of hands is. But
Nathan, here comes Kevin's passion.
Yeah, Kevin's passion is there should be no whistle in the U.S. now.
Everyone's just getting fired.
Yeah. So. But yeah, we do definitely talk about it. Now, whether or not we have favorite rules or ones that we hate, I won't say that. The board and the organization have set a list of rules, and we're gonna enforce them the way that they're listed out. And we go through and we talk about them. We find better ways to look for them and go through them all. But I don't have a favorite one. I don't have a least favorite one.
Okay.
Nice. I guess I'll go opposite Josh on the contact before the
whistle. Yeah, you will.
Mostly because I like defense. I think that it takes away a lot of defensive strategy for low pointers in the penalty box, especially. And if the referee's not good, the game will drag because players all of a sudden can contact now. So they go searching for those contacts and tying people up, and they're not concerned about inbounding. And so the game flow is really disrupted unless the referee is willing to put the ball on the ground, start the count, get things going. But I also think in the US, it wasn't fully fleshed out the way that rule is approached because obviously you had some controversy at nationals. Obviously there's some issues around when can we hit each other in the center circle? Nobody's doing that yet. So the fully thought out strategies of where contact can happen and then managing the player safety around that is something that I think needs to be thought out a lot more before you remove something. I would rather see more defensive rules implemented in rugby to eliminate a little bit of the scoring and create a lot more turnovers.
It's an interesting point, and because we were playing right when it first started, and then Australia came to Best of West. Chuck and I were playing for Minnesota, and then we had Johnny Coggin playing with us. And I've never seen Bat and Bond lick their chops more than playing no contact with Johnny on the court. And everyone knows, like, he's pretty small, but I mean, obviously he's a great 0.5, but he's tiny. And so, like, they're going around just trying to destroy him everywhere, which, like, then we were like, all right, well, if they're going to just transition to him wherever he is on the court, we're going to inbound the ball faster. It's like, there was definitely strategy involved there on both ends. But there was a couple of hits where I was like, I hope little Johnny didn't go wee all the way back to England. Like, he got hit hard. So there was that. But man, like, I think it's an interesting concept, and I think the biggest beef that players have usually, Kevin and Josh, is that it's a subjective call, and every ref does it differently. And that's part of the way I love game. I love baseball is one of my favorite sports, and I love to understand where an umpire strike zone is. We're going to call balls, we're going to strike. Kevin, you like to put the ball down fast, and so whenever you're reffing us, we know that. Like, we're like, all right, we're going to have to play a little bit differently compared to, like, maybe if Josh is reffing, like, it might be 3 seconds instead of 2. And so, like, where does that come into play? Is that something that's just going to happen? I mean, I probably know the answer to it, but I want your perspective on
Sure.
that.
I think that kind of stuff happens more as you mature as a referee, because you start reading the tactics. And so you know when a certain team is already deploying a tactic that's going to delay the flow. And like flow, like Josh has been in many of my pre-games, flow is like the paramount thing for me. If the game's not moving, the game sucks. That's my opinion. So take that for what it is. But you guys play fast. Japan plays fast. Like Australia plays pretty fast. It depends on their 0.5s, for example. So like I accelerate the ball putting down when I see 0.5 starting to delay, as an example, whereas Jeff's pretty quick to the inbound, or like Trevor Hirschfield when I do Canada and club ball. Like,
yeah, Trevor's long inbound. So they're, even when we don't want them to inbound, they're getting there fast. What are you doing? No. Right.
Yeah, so it's about reading those tactics and getting to know the teams, and that's part of the pregame. And like I think referees start with a pregame that's very much like, oh, I hope it goes well. I want to make these calls. I want to do these type of things. And then as you get more refined, you don't talk about call selection as much as you talk about like flow. Who are the important players? When do you take care of those players? When do you not need to take care of those players? And just you get through like a bit of almost like a scouting report. And you watch games. Like I watch games a lot and sit in the stands and try and say like, oh, this is what happens. Like I know like in a pregame, this is a little secret for you that you wanted some secrets. But like I know that when I referee Japan, like Shimakawa looks for one hit in the first 3 minutes of the game. He likes to set the tone. You just need to know whether that hit was fair or foul. And like if you can be in good position, you set yourself up for success. So I pregame things like that so that my partner is aware of like, I'm going to look for that. You need to look for that. And then we're a team. And that's sort of the best outcome is like when you can either be the senior ref and pick up your teammate to your level, or have two equal teammates that are looking for the same thing on the court, and you're a real partnership.
Yeah. Awesome. I've got a couple more from the audience here. We'll go to France. Coach Oliver, no more timeout. It would be really great. So like, can you clarify that? Is it like no timeouts, like take away the 4 timeouts, or how's that work?
Take away the floor timeouts is what France is trialing.
Okay.
So I think it's good, actually. It's a defensive rule. It rewards good defense. I could see like
because just in context, for 4 timeouts, they're basically 4 get out of jail free cards that every team uses. For the most part. So totally. would you add in a couple? Because I think timeouts are really good for momentum's sake. But I hear what you're saying as far as like it's a defensive rule. So would you add maybe another coach's timeout, have 3 timeouts for the game or something like that?
Yeah, I'd like to see what a phased approach of that would look like. Like, would 1 timeout per quarter for a get out of jail free? But if we're going to do that, we could keep the timeouts the same or go to the 1 timeout per quarter. But I would really like to explore what like the NBA does, for example, where you only get the remaining time on the shot clock. You don't get a new you don't get a new goal clock for rugby or tripod.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So like it rewards some defense, but it gives you a get out of jail free option to reset up an inbound and maybe get it over half or whatever you need to do. But I think there's lots of cool strategies you can play with around timeouts because it is defensive in structure. And like getting rid of them altogether as like get out of jail free cards could be a good solution. But adding like one more coach timeout, maybe like one that 3 for the game, but one that disappears in the first half if you don't use it, for example. That's another rule that I've seen trialed in some other places. So that's cool.
Super interesting and makes a lot of sense because I think that's the toughest part of our game right now is there's not, as far as momentum goes, like there's no 3-run home runs or there's no like 3-point baskets. And so right now, like on the international level, I would say the average turnovers for a team teams combined. So if we're playing Japan, like there's going to be 5 or 6 turnovers during it.
I'd say 4 or 5 is it.
Yeah. Which is crazy. So,
I mean, I refereed a game of you guys at Canada Cup and there was 0 turnovers and you guys got a last second goal at the end of the game.
Yeah, it's insane. So I think that makes a lot of sense as far as like trying to figure out ways to reward defense and reward. And I think for the moment, like games are a beautiful thing and they're almost like an artwork where there's these ups and downs and ebbs and flows. And with rugby, sometimes it can be, especially at the elite level, it can be pretty monotonous at times where it's like score. Question that's, I think, been talked about for a long time is the foul limit and the risk versus reward of the fouls in the game right now. Specifically, I would probably say for the most part is reaching. Right now, if you're high pointers, if you're Riley Bad, if you're Daisuke, if you're Chuck Aoki, if you're like even Midbar, whatever it be, like you can everyone Trevor loves to reach. His hands are on my wheel more than they are on his, but and I'm gonna have him on the show in a couple weeks. But anyways, foul limit. Like, what do you guys think about the foul limit? Is it going to be? Would it put too much pressure on a referee, or is the table official going to handle that anyways? Or is it going to add too much subjectivity to it? What are your thoughts? Josh, go first.
I'll have to say this. Before we be able to actually see if a foul limit's going to be able to work, is we need to find a way to better track it. Right now, currently, if there's a penalty try, there's no tracking as to who the penalty was against. It's just here's a try. So I think the first step would be to start tracking the penalty tries and see, get the data to see does a foul limit make sense, and what would that foul limit be? Would it be 3? Would it be 5? Is it per half? Is it per game? Trying to see how that would go. Because right now it's just not tracked, so I can't give you a good answer if whether or not it's going to make a big difference or not. Would it slow the game down because of the tracking? Because now we have to clearly say, hey, spin or whatever it may be, not a flagrant foul, but a spin on number 3, white, report it to the table, make sure that they get it. It'd be really interesting to see how that all plans out.
Yeah, I don't know about foul limits. Like, I think you have to define, first of all, like whether or not that's at the international level or at the club level, because there's a lot more like ticky-tack fouls. They happen at the club level than happen at the international level. Like, I would say, like, when I referee USA specifically, there are not a lot of reaches called. You guys play pretty much hands on your wheels. Like the odd player reaches a lot, but again, that's a coaching issue. Like not a coaching from the coaching the bench, but a coaching from the referee perspective to get a little bit dirty in there and say like, hey, hands out, guys. Like, or let them know you're watching the hands. And as soon as referees start using their voice a little bit more on the floor, which can happen a lot more, I think like some of us do it well. And those are the ones I think maybe as a player, you can say whether you like it or not. But I think it helps players find the line of where that official is a lot sooner, because they just have their ears open and they're looking around and they can see where you're positioned. And again, positioning and use of voice will mitigate a lot of reaches and illegal, like that kind of illegal use of the hands behavior or holding, like all those type of things. But if you're talking about like cheap shots on the penalty try, I think we can look at some sort of mitigating penalty for that if we need to in the future. It's a little bit different strategy versus like a overall foul limit.
Right. And Nathan brings up a good point about the penalty goal system, and then specifically the flagrant foul, which I would love to talk about real quick. Is, man, like because specifically flopping. Like flopping is very much a part of our sport. I'm here. I played since the beginning, so I feel like it's been a part of my sport for a long time. But like, it's interesting though because the NBA finally had to go to something and say like, guys, like you can't. It's just like the old evangelical, whatever, the gospel preacher Benny Hinn that used to like touch people and then talk like he would. It's like like you blow, and then all of a sudden they're like spinning in a spiral, or there's some really dirty hits, or there's the rule of like, hey, you're not hitting anyone going in for a score that's really an undefensible, that type of deal. So like flagrant fouls, there used to be like the red and yellow card for a second in the IWF, and that went away pretty quick. But those are like probably the biggest momentum changers of a game, especially in the close.
Yeah, totally they can be. I think like, again, positioning matters all the time. So we want to make sure that we're coaching referees to be seeing the gap between the players, so they actually see the contact. Like often, like you don't see that gap. The referee stands on the other side of it and is now taking a guess as to where that actual contact was. And so one of the problems that happens in wheelchair rugby a lot is like facilities is a challenge, right? So we don't have deep enough baselines so that officials can get the that they need to get. So that's something we can improve from a sport perspective. But again, positioning is everything, and you'll see that more and more as you progress in the sport. Like referees will get better in positioning. So penalty try, I'm still happy to give that penalty try. I just want to make sure what we're doing is watching the defense more than the offense and seeing where that contact is, make a determination whether that's a spin or whether that's a flagrant, and being like consistent about it.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think the flagrant fouls, we've tried to coach up, especially a lot of the newer officials on the U.S. side, and then internationally we have the same conversations with anybody that's coming in testing and trying to build their way up. Is watching that gap, but then also understanding the mechanics of it, like why what's the danger aspect of it? Where's that contact? How is it happening? How does it affect the play? I would. Maybe I'm naive, but I would say every single rugby player that has ever had any game with me that I've done a pregame should know, just don't hit at the goal line. That's the easiest thing. Like a hit behind the axle at the goal line, that's the easiest way to hit a flagrant foul. So that's to me, if you're making a legitimate play, I can definitely see that. And then, as Kevin's mentioned before, it's the growth of the referees. You get to see a little bit of that development of, hey, you're watching for, like you mentioned, the flop. You're more aware of it. You're keying into it. We've had a couple of referees in this past season that have actively gone out and, they've waved off goals because they say, hey, that was actually physical advantage. The player flopped out of their chair before, the ball was still in possession and turned it over. So it is something we're watching. We definitely are watching. We're talking about it. We're trying to improve everybody too.
Yeah, and to that coaching sort of points that Josh raises a good point there, is it's just about getting consistent and on the same page. And that's something wheelchair rugby doesn't have that a lot of other sports do have, is like camps for officials, because there's a little bit more money in basketball, for example, or hockey, where there's like registration fees go towards helping the officials crew come along. And that's something I think national sport organizations can do a better job of globally. I think like Canada's been a leader in that area, and that we've always had for international development, we've had I think it's $5,000 budget where we've been able to send a referee with the team internationally so that they get more experience. And then we've also just had top tier coaching with like people like Gilles coming along, like PA, myself coaching the next group coming along. So that's why you see a lot of consistency from like Canadian officials. The way we approach the game anyway is very similar. And then like US just sees the top tier rugby, so you're bound to matriculate up some quality officials, which is sort of where the Josh and like Mitch and like all those people come from, like Darren, and then good coaching happens. And then also better systems of alignment around getting top tier officials to see top tier games. Because a lot of the best rugby's on the West Coast, but a lot of the best officials are on the East Coast because they have that, to Josh's earlier point, slowed down games where they can work on mechanics, see the game, and
Right.
build skills and not just be like overwhelmed by the fact that they're refereeing Paralympians from at the gate.
Right. Yeah, it's a very interesting piece, especially in the U.S. where a tournament director is trying to spend the least amount of money, but then we also want good reps there. So it's like, oh, Josh is in Tampa, but I can get so and so that can drive, and so it's always like a catch-22 in a way with where the almighty dollar is always. Yeah. Another question is, Chad talked about it, where during the game and having banter with the players, and like it's one of my favorite things to do, to be able to have a conversation. And so like some of those calls where it's like, okay, where are we at with this? Are we calling right now? Okay, we are good. Okay. And then, or it's a little bit looser, and that's the way the game can be called. Figure out how to play a little bit. So kind of having those conversations throughout, or that was probably a comeback or things like that. How do you guys feel when an athlete is approaching you, or is there a way to approach a referee in a respectful manner? But what do you know about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this: there's a couple ways, and there's the official way of captains and coaches only. And that's the official stance. But there's certain, Kevin's been a really great person for me to work with over the last couple of years in my development is talking more to the players, not overly talking, not talking too much, not explaining every single call and going through that. But, if there's questions and there's a stoppage and we have a chance, like, hey, I saw that, let's talk at the quarter, let's talk at the half, or if it's something that you can kind of discuss quickly, you can talk about it. What we try and avoid is any lengthy discussion. If it's a judgment call, there are certain judgment calls. I might explain it after the game or something like that, what I saw, or I might quickly say, hey, I saw this, then this, then this, and that's why I made the call I made. But I'm not trying to get into a lengthy discussion on the court. But I'm very open and active to hear what you guys have to say. I take it all in. I'll be honest. A lot of it comes in, a lot of it goes right out too, one ear out the other. But I do hear you, and I want you guys to know that. And it's important to continue that dialogue because, as Kevin said earlier too, you guys start to see the tactics that we have and certain aspects of our game that we're watching too. Not to give away all of our clues and hints and everything, but I think any really great rugby player is watching the referees and they understand which referees they have, and they may tailor their game just a little bit. They know how they're gonna play.
Yeah, I like talking to players too. I think it's that fine line between like informational talk versus like conversational talk. I think the better rapport you get with the elite level athletes, the better it will be for you in the game. Like the smoother it will go, the easier the easier it is to sell the call when it's on the borderline, because you build that trust factor that like, hey, I'm here to support you and help you. I'm not just here to be the police. That's exactly the opposite feel from what I want to have in a game. It can go a little too far when like you get imbalance in teams. Like as an example, like I'm my referee USA, and I see you guys a lot. So you might play like, let's say Finland or something like that. And all of a sudden I've got all this rapport with you guys and I'm used to talking to you guys, and I don't have any rapport. I need to build that rapport with the other team. So it can feel a little imbalanced if I'm a little too chatty with USA with them. But so I might dial it a little bit back and it becomes just more informational. But when it's like Australia versus like USA, I know all the players on the team. Like we can have a conversation. We know each other by first name, not just like that's a referee in my game today. So we can build that. We have that rapport established. So you know that the game's going to go a little differently, and you can have more conversations and talk to them about getting the hands out, or about chair positioning, or be faster on the inbound, or things like that.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're going a little long. We're going to wrap it up here in the next 10 minutes, if that's okay. But I had one more question, and then we'll kind of wrap it up with a little rapid fire wrap up, referee style. So, really quick, there's a question like, what call have they made that upon review they wish they had not made? I don't know if you're going to give me that, but if you don't, the other question would be, what's the hardest call to make in rugby? Hardest call to make in rugby? I have mine.
The hardest call to make in wheelchair rugby is, I'm going to say, I'm going to go controversial here, pushing.
Oh, well played. Yeah, that's a good one.
It doesn't get called enough, and it happens sometimes out of the corner of your eye on one cone when like you're watching the play on the other. And so it can be really, really tough to decide, did I see pushing over there to cancel a try versus is the try successful before the push? And I think that that's a real like challenging one for officials coming up out there, like to see the game in a wider context.
Yeah.
Not just a big bang play.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, pushing is a really tough one, and that's one you got to actively be aware of. I don't know. I'd like to say probably a charging call, just because I haven't seen it. Like you don't see it very often. I know what I'm looking for. If I see it, I know what's going to happen. But at that point in time, is it the difference between a charge or a play call? Because the only purpose of a hit like that typically is just for intimidation. So just trying to figure that out. That probably would be the toughest call right now for me to make.
Yeah. Well, and the intent of it too, because normally, like the opportunity to have a charging call would probably be when someone's setting up in the key, the other team's inbounding the ball, and then you can full steam ahead. So like, did they slow down? Is there intent there? Is there I don't know. Yeah, those are good answers. I like that. I was going to go over and back is what I was going to say, but I just wish the over and back was like a basketball call where it's the ball on the chair. Body basketball, but anyway, yeah. Okay. To wrap it up, my questions for you are, here we go. So real quick, do you guys get nervous before a big game?
Yes.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten nervous before on my gold medal games.
All right, you guys are human.
I'll clarify with before until the tip off. As soon as the ball's tapped, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say that. It's once it gets playing, it's just another game. It's just all rugby.
Yeah. What has been the biggest game you've reffed and why? Biggest game you've reffed?
That's all big games. I think actually I'll pick the semifinal that you guys unfortunately lost. That was a big game. Yeah. You know what? I've refereed a lot of gold medal games, but that semifinal is often the biggest game. And I would say on average, my semifinals are more important to me from a career perspective than gold medal games or bronze medal games.
From a perspective, the semifinals are probably the most intense game.
Yeah. One of the fastest games I've ever refereed is the rationale for that. It's the fastest game I think I've ever refereed.
Absolutely.
For me, I'd have to go European A last year, refereeing the game where Denmark won to go on that semifinal. Yeah, going in. It was a really close fought game. Yeah, it was a really great game, and it was back and forth, and had a great partner on court with me, and so it made it easy. But it was one of the most entertaining and back and forth games that I've had a chance to be a part of.
Sorry, Steve, I don't think it's any tampering. Yeah. Okay, what's been your favorite memory in wheelchair rugby? Favorite memory?
Yeah, I'll say going for my card up in Toronto when I was going for my international card. First game, that was when they brought wheelchair rugby back into the Pan Ams, and so it was the first game. It was Canada. It was streamed internationally. I mean, and I just remember walking out of that court and just being like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." And I'm glad I didn't look at the crowd again until the end, because it went from being about a couple hundred people to several thousand jam-packed. It was a great game.
Nice. I'll say I kind of have two. One's Argentina when I got my license, but more from the fact that I watched the bronze medal game where Argentina upset Brazil, and they carried
off my court in their chairs.
Yeah, they carried people around the gyms, and there were drums beating nonstop. That was really, really incredible. So that was really cool. And then I would just say doing Rio was pretty cool from a TD perspective, to see a whole thing that you put together come to life, and especially with all the things going on in Brazil at the time, that was a good memory for me.
Yeah. Wow, I totally lost my train of thought. But what was I going to say? Dang it. It's something along the lines of that. Anyways, yeah, favorite games, favorite memories. I lost, yeah. I think, honestly, that's what I was going to say, Toronto. That was one of my favorite memories is Toronto and, like, hockey arena, and the crowd was electric.
Yeah.
Obviously, we ended up losing the first game against Canada and that second game against Canada. Probably, like, the loudest, like, not being in a Fair Olympics, the loudest the gym's been. And it was,
big crowd is so cool.
Yeah, just amazing. And it adds to it, and, like, you're trying to plan for it, but normally you're playing in a high school gym and there's, 10 people there, and then all of a sudden you go to these big time games and it's amazing, especially in, like, a hostile environment. Canadians are all drinking beer and yelling at you, and, like, it's just great. It's fantastic. Makes you feel like an elite athlete. So it's pretty cool. But you guys, thank you so much for being on. This was awesome. I really appreciate the insight and the banter. I know a lot of people enjoyed it. France, coming big with the no timeouts. That sounds awesome. That sounds really cool. I think it would add a lot to the game. But thank you guys so much. Hope you guys have a great day. We'll be back Friday at 11 with the Captain's Chat. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks so much, Joe. Really appreciate it.